Hello, everybody. I'm Natalie Brunell. Thank you so much for checking out my show, where I get to hear from the leading voices in Bitcoin, financial markets, political structures, philosophy, and more. Please make sure you're subscribed to the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like this video so more people see it and hit that notifications button so you don't miss out on any new content. This podcast does not provide financial advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So make sure you always do your own research before making any financial decisions and be aware of your risk tolerance. I'm able to produce this show thanks to my sponsors, and I'm very picky about who I choose to partner with. So I hope you'll take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. These are companies that I really believe in the space. I've hand selected them, and I actually use their products and services. I'm also able to produce this show thanks to the support of my listeners and viewers, value for value. So if you'd like to make a donation to help the show grow, you can find my Bitcoin and Lightning wallets in the description. All right, now to my main partner, Swan Bitcoin. Swan is where I do all of my Bitcoin purchases. In fact, I dollar cost average every single day, not every week, not bi-monthly, every single day. And they have the lowest fees in the space. I love Swan Bitcoin because it is a true Bitcoin only company. Swan has a ton of free educational resources on their website, and they now have a mobile app, which I've been using to smash by some Bitcoin. Swan Studios produces my new show, Hard Money, which covers the biggest news in Bitcoin and the global economy. It's like an orange-pilled version of CNBC, so make sure to check that out on YouTube for all the biggest headlines, because we are not afraid to question the mainstream narrative. And Swan Bitcoin is putting on the first and biggest West Coast Bitcoin-only conference, Pacific Bitcoin. It'll be held November 10th and 11th in the LA area with prominent speakers like Michael Saylor, Lynn Alden, and Preston Pish. I'll be an MC, and also I'll be hosting some fireside chats with people like Jeff Booth and Alex Epstein. And if you want to come to the event, you still have time to get tickets. You can get 20% off at pacificbitcoin.com using the code HODL, HODL. Super excited to see you there. It's time for the show. All right, this is a very special impromptu episode of Coin Stories, where I'm joined by the CEO of Swan, which I'm so proud to be partnered with, Cory Klippsten, who's been calling out these scams and fraudulent companies for a while now. So Cory, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Interesting circumstances for sure.
Yes. Okay. So I want to start out, I want to go into the backstory of what happened with FTX and Binance. But first, just out of curiosity, with all the craziness happening right now, especially on Twitter, as this news develops, summarize this for me in like a sentence or two. What's happening?
Yeah. So FTX, a large crypto exchange, or crypto casino, as I like to call them, evidently had taken some pretty large directional bets, potentially with user funds, and also had relied on the value of their own printed out of thin air token, FTT, which was, supposedly used kind of like the BNB coin at Binance for discounted trading fees. But they actually had more than the circulating market cap of FTT on their balance sheet. Which is something that's possible because there wasn't, it was 3 billion circulating and 8 billion total, and they had like 3.6 on their balance sheet. Anyway, once it became clear because of a leak that somebody sent Alameda's balance sheet over to Alameda's, the sort of partner firm. It's a separate entity, but it's very unclear where the division is between the hedge fund / market maker Alameda. It's a prop trading desk basically, and FTX.
That's SBF's company, right? That's SBF.
These are Sam Bankman-Fried's two companies, right? Alameda, and then Alameda spun out FTX and started this exchange. It just became very clear that their finances were much more precarious than previously thought, and they were largely dependent on people believing that these large piles of worthless altcoins were worth something. And as soon as traders started to sniff that out and could see the weakness in that, essentially the emperor had no clothes, and this purported genius of crypto, the JP Morgan of saving these CeFi lenders or whatever, it basically caused everyone to rethink the last 6 months completely. And like I had always been saying, the only reason this guy is trying to rescue these things is because he's cross-collateralized with them, and he needs them not to go under, or he will go under. That's what I've been telling people since June. And it seems very clear that's exactly what's been going on.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's dig into it a little bit because FTX sort of looked like the big dog and the king when BlockFi was having issues and Voyager. Now, all of a sudden, Binance needs to step in and rescue FTX. So, can you kind of lay out the history in simple terms for people that maybe are in the space investing, but also for people that are looking into crypto and wondering if this is a safe place to actually invest in Bitcoin finally?
Yeah. Great place to invest in Bitcoin. Awful time to invest in crypto. Crypto is for trading. It's a worse than zero sum casino. But yeah, buying Bitcoin is always a good idea. Just don't buy it from one of those crypto casinos where, and if you do, withdraw it immediately to self-custody and don't leave it there. So Binance has been around since 2017. Binance actually provided the seed money for FTX and was one of the interested parties that helped FTX get off the ground. One of the reasons, secondhand information, but supposedly the reason that they kind of brought this to Sam and the Alameda team and said, we'd like you guys to start an exchange and we'll give you all this money to do it, is because Binance was forecasting that they would have a lot more trouble in the US with regulations. Wow. And so this is when you saw the creation of Binance US, which has like much fewer coins and sort of less volume and things like that. And Binance International is sort of, this homeless entity. Nobody can figure out what jurisdiction they're in, and they kind of just operate in the shadows, but they're huge. So FTX was supposed to be this, a US entrepreneur that's based here kind of, but then they ended up going to the Bahamas for the international. And then they ended up having to start FTX US separately anyway. And so I think what I understand is there was kind of a plan for the crypto movers and shakers types that they initially hoped that FTX could be kind of the venue for the US, but then it ended up being kind of a carbon copy of Binance with the separate US entity, the same way that Binance has.
Wow. And so they developed a token, right? FTT. And then separately, he also has this Alameda Research company. So how did this turn into, a new contagion?
So when people know your positions and they sniff out weakness and there's no one on the bid, there's no one that wants to buy this stuff essentially except for you. Like the only company that the price of FTT matters to is FTX and Alameda. And there's no natural demand for this stuff, so let's say that somebody ran an analysis saying like, at trading volumes that assume like a mix of bull and bear markets, there might be something like $300 million of annual demand for FTT because of the discounted trading fees. And assuming a velocity of money of, call it like, let's say something tiny like 3x. So the same FTT token only gets spent 3 times a year. So that'd be like, you would need about $100 million of supply. But they had pumped this thing up to, over a $3 billion market cap and $8 billion fully diluted market cap. So, at minimum, the thing is 80x overvalued.
And you were sort of calling this out earlier, right? You were watching the price of the FTT token and letting people know, just as you have with previous companies.
Yeah, I mean, I've been poking at this, scam, bankster, fraud myth. That's what I like to call him. Sam Bankman-Fried myth. This whole mythology since the collapse of Celsius, and this whole BS around him being a white knight coming to save crypto. It always was apparently like very clearly self-serving from the get-go. And so I was talking about that on TV shows, Yahoo Finance and CoinDesk TV and CNBC and stuff back in June, and explaining this. And I've kind of stayed on it ever since. And then last week, the editorial team at CoinDesk, somebody passed them the Alameda balance sheet. One of their editors got in touch with me to help them analyze the balance sheet, which I did. So I did that last week, spent about an hour with them, just kind of explaining what I saw there. They put out their story, and the rest is history. As soon as CZ smelled blood and said, oh, I happen to have this $580 million worth of FTT on my balance sheet, and all I have to do is tell people I'm going to sell it, and I can completely tank FTX's business and take them to zero. He went ahead and played that card.
Wasn't Binance already talking about buying FTX? Like, do you think this could have been, I don't know, a strategy where they were trying to get it for a lower price? Or is this more of, the big concern is the fact that they are so leveraged and they have to come in and really bail them out because otherwise Binance is going to have issues as well?
Yeah, well, such short memories we have. It's probably 10 days ago that Sam Bankman-Fried was talking about buying Coinbase. So you want to talk about hubris before the fall?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that might have been last week. That might have been Monday or Tuesday last week, but it definitely wasn't more than a week and a half ago.
We're going to take a quick break from the show to hear these messages from my sponsors. First up, iTrustCapital. Do you save in Bitcoin for your retirement in your IRA? iTrustCapital allows you to invest in Bitcoin and other digital assets with the tax benefits of an IRA. And unlike the stock market, you can buy and sell 24 hours a day. Instead of paying taxes on Bitcoin gains every year, you can defer taxes using an iTrust crypto IRA, or with an iTrustCapital Roth IRA, you can withdraw tax-free at retirement. iTrust recently hit a milestone of $6 billion in total transactions across the platform, and that's $6 billion in tax-advantaged accounts that those 87,000 new IRS agents can't do anything about. The iTrustCapital platform is easy to use and only takes a few minutes to set up. And if you want to start investing with a $100 bonus, head to iTrust.capital/Natalie Brunell. Next up, let's talk about Bitcoin 2023. That is the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world. And take a look at the video from last year in Miami. It was an incredible event that was jam-packed with the best speaking sessions, workshops, and networking events that I've been to in the space. I had the chance to live anchor the Bitcoin Magazine news desk and serve as MC. And it was such a full circle moment for me to be at that conference because the first one I attended was Bitcoin 2021 in Miami. And that's where I actually launched the Coin Stories podcast. I went on a media pass because I used to be a reporter, and I actually went backstage and started asking the speakers like Michael Saylor and Preston Pysh if they would come on my show. And they did. And a year later, I'm back at the conference as someone who actually has a career now in Bitcoin. So you never know what can happen at these events. I highly recommend going so you can meet other people that share the same values and passion for Bitcoin. And if you want your ticket at a 10% discount, head to b.tc/conference and use the code HODL, HODL. I'll see you there.
I mean, that might have been last week. That might have been Monday or Tuesday last week, but it definitely wasn't more than a week and a half ago.
I mean, this could create monopolies, don't you think? I mean, Binance acquiring FTX, they're becoming fewer, and they're all still so leveraged and fragile at the end of the day. If you really look at the underlying, pipes, it seems like we're only going to have a couple of big crypto exchanges. That's not good.
I mean, Coinbase doesn't have a token, right? So it's just an exchange, and it's doing what a casino operator should do. If they're just, trying to make money, like just take your rake, call it a day, book the profits. Binance, they say they're going to do proof of reserves. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anything to indicate that Binance rehypothecates user funds and uses them for taking one-way directional bets or lending them out to market makers or whatever it is that FTX is doing. Mm-hmm. It looks like the hole in the FTX balance sheet is $5 to $6 billion. That's the last I'm seeing on Twitter. That's what they're shopping for. They're trying to get it by noon Pacific. So they've got about 38 minutes as we talk right now to get $5 or $6 billion supposedly. Wow. Again, this is secondhand info.
I mean, once the ship is taking on, once the ship is taking on that much water, what are you going to do? It's sinking. So,
yeah. So as far as consolidation, I mean, are you going to have Binance owning Voyager and BlockFi and FTX because those deals go through?
Exactly.
Do you just, now that this has happened and FTX is not, I mean, it was only Sam Bankman-Fried trying to save his company that made him do the deals with Voyager and BlockFi in the first place. Mm-hmm. So now it makes a lot more sense to just let them die. Mm-hmm. So I would guess, that's my guess, is that any sort of FTX or Binance/FTX deal for Voyager or BlockFi probably just puts those in the much, much less likely to happen category.
For those who haven't been following this, can you kind of summarize what the Alameda books looked like? And, I know that people are sharing on Twitter right now the fact that Binance can pull out if they want to. So what does this acquisition period look like? Because it's still all up in the air, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simplest one was, I think, the headline tweet that ended up getting repeated everywhere, which was just, they had like 6 billion of retained equity or net equity, essentially, and an FTT token pile at Alameda of 3.6 billion. And so the point was, the majority of the retained equity in this supposed genius prop trading shop is this printed out of thin air token from their sister company. And that doesn't look very good.
So in terms of like who's affected by this, is the customer money on FTX okay for now, but then the investors in FTX are the ones getting killed, or who's really impacted the most right now?
So this is my best understanding of what I'm seeing come across the feed. As you know, I was hosting a big dinner for a global Swan team last night in Los Angeles, and then, not much time this morning to catch up on things, but I have been up since 5:30, kind of reading and figuring out what I see. I think it looks really obvious by the fact that they even have this liquidity crisis. They've actually been using users' funds to do things, to trade, to lend out, to put in other places, and they thought they were so smart that they could manage the risk. So yeah, I think that deposits are at risk, and I think that's the whole point of them selling to Binance, is they're counting on Binance to come and make everybody whole.
What do you think happens to SBF with this whole process?
I mean, my main point in going after the guy for the last, what is it, November, I guess, the last 5 months, 6 months, was just, don't believe it. This guy is not an altruist. Like that whole ethos, sort of left coast 60s, 70s liberal ethos of, okay, if you're going to be in capitalism, just because you want to give it away, that was supposedly his thing. That doesn't mean you can screw people over and scam them to get the money. That's just robbery. And I think that's the business that he's been in this whole time. And, so I just never believed it. I never believed he was actually all that smart. I think, it's one thing to be good at math. It's another thing to actually make good decisions, especially when situations are dynamic and, you're under duress and you have to make decisions quickly. And I think that's kind of what we saw is like, there's this movie called Fresh about chess that came out in the early 90s. It was Samuel L. Jackson was like the estranged father of this kid who was kind of like a little chess prodigy, and Samuel L. Jackson had been basically like an incredible speed chess player when he was younger, and he would say like, I don't care anyone, take Bobby Fischer, take Kasparov, I don't care, put the clock on him. And I think that's what you see, like these guys that can make great moves with lots of time to crunch the data and spend their time with it. You put the clock on them, you get in a dynamic market situation, all of a sudden the animal spirits are attacking you and everybody's hunting your positions because they know exactly which tokens you have, because they have your balance sheet, and they've also seen all the things that you've pumped and dumped in the past, like Solana and Maps and Serum and all these things. Like everybody knows the big one-way directional bets. So they just had to short each of those, and they would assume that other people would pile into the trade, and then it has its own momentum. And that's what I talk about when I talk about a Lehman moment. It's not Lehman, what happened to the rest of the banking industry. It's what happened to Lehman, and just the fact that people knew what was on their book, and they knew that Lehman would be forced to sell at a reduced price, and that you could just short the crap out of anything that they owned. So this happened to long-term capital management in 1998 as well, right? The correlation of all their products, everything that they owned and everything they had on their book goes to one, because people know their positions, or thinks that they know their positions. And I think that's just what happened with FTX. Like everybody said, oh, they're in trouble. I can make money shorting literally anything that they own.
Yeah. I mean, that's that crypto contagion effect with all the dominoes, and it can happen very quickly. People thought it was over. It's been a couple of months. Bitcoin's been holding up okay. We're still in this bear market, but people thought it was over. And now which one comes next? What do you think's the next one that's going to fall?
I mean, we know, again, this is kind of about who's fragile. And and that doesn't mean that they're going down for sure. It just means that their businesses are doomed to fail at some point, because, it's just, they're turkeys, and they think they're getting fatter and fatter and happier until Thanksgiving. And then they get their head chopped off.
Mm-hmm.
But, other ridiculously fragile businesses out there include crypto.com.
Mm-hmm.
The chance of them actually, sponsoring the LA arena here where I live for the next 10 years is zero. Will never happen. They will not be around to see their name on that stadium for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Where's the FTX arena? Wasn't there an FTX arena?
That's Miami.
That's Miami. Okay.
Also, I tweeted back then, like, you guys are going to be incredibly embarrassed. This is a joke. Like, you're just all going to have egg on your faces. And that goes for Tom Brady and Matt Damon and all these guys. Their agents really need to wake up and stop putting them in crypto scams. We've tried. I've gone to the agencies and explained, like, I've told their digital groups, like, you're going to have egg on your face. You're going to look like shit.
I know we're both trying. We're here in LA. We're trying with these Hollywood folks, but they love the glitter of the other stuff right now.
Well, these casinos can pay them. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's right.
And then obviously Nexo obviously is the same junk. Crypto.com and Nexo are both run by sort of like gray market scammy online marketers, is all their sort of past careers. And, they're all rehypothecating and doing super risky things. And so it's just a matter of time for both of those businesses. They're the same thing as like Celsius, basically.
You mentioned proof of reserves before. I know some people are tweeting about it right now. Is that what needs to happen in order to prevent something like this? Or how do we prevent this from continuing?
Yeah, if
people losing their money.
First of all, I don't have an inclination, or I don't have an indication, I should say, that Binance is rehypothecating user deposits in the first place. Like, I don't know that they're lending stuff out at all. FTX had FTX Earn, which they, put out last year or whatever, and they were offering like 5 to 8% on user deposits. That's exactly what Celsius was doing. Right. And then they're doing all these weird lockups, like saying you can't. Oh, I think that. So I tweeted this out yesterday because somebody sent me the screenshot. They wanted to withdraw or sell their FTT, and they either had to wait 14 days or pay a 10% penalty. So people yesterday that had been, doing the just long anything that Sam does. This has been like a dominant theme for a couple of years now. Is like anything that Sam's in, he's smarter than everybody. He and Vitalik are the geniuses. Like, just long anything that Sam Bankman-Fried is involved in. And that's been like a trading strategy for people. And so they're stuck with these big piles of FTT tokens. And they had to decide yesterday, do they believe the fudsters, those Bitcoiners, those mean maximalists saying, get your coins off, just take the 10% hit, bro, like whatever, at least you'll have your money. Mm-hmm. Or do you trust Sam? And as we all know, don't trust Scam Bankman-Fried.
We're going to take another quick break to hear these messages from my sponsors. First up, Fold. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to your groceries, with Fold's Bitcoin cashback debit card, and win free Satoshis every day, or even a whole Bitcoin by spinning the daily wheel and the purchase rewards wheels. I actually have an alarm set every single day so that I never miss out on spinning the daily wheel and earning free sats. And, I have to say that Fold is one of the best ways to get someone completely new into Bitcoin, because they can start earning it and learning about it and using it. So if you want to sign up and join the fun, head to foldapp.com/Natalie for 5,000 in free sats. All right, now I want to tell you about a company called CrowdHealth, which is a Bitcoin-enabled alternative to health insurance. Because let's be honest, health insurance sucks. The government and insurance companies have jacked up prices. They've made things super complex. And when you send your money in, it essentially goes into the health insurance black hole, and then you never see it again, even if you don't get sick and you don't need medical services because, you don't eat fiat foods. But then if you actually do get sick or you need care, you have to send them more money because something ends up not being covered. The great news is there's now an alternative brought to you by Bitcoiners, and it is called CrowdHealth. It is very different from insurance. Instead of sending your hard-earned money to an insurance company, you hold your money in an account that CrowdHealth helps you set up. And you can even convert the dollars in your account to Bitcoin. Now, the company is all about community. Remember, it's called CrowdHealth. So when someone in the community is in need, needs care, needs help, you can choose to actually use the money in your account to help them, or you can keep it in your account. And if you ever leave CrowdHealth, you can take the money that's left with you. If you want to learn more and sign up, you can head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. Now back to the show.
Don't trust Sam Bankman-Fried.
Wow. Don't you think that this whole thing is really a good thing in the sense that the only place that I see free markets actually functioning is in crypto, where the fires are allowed to burn and you see, who is able to survive and which companies are actually viable. And there's no bailout. There's no big mama bear from the Fed coming in. And this is what should have probably happened in 08, 09. We would have, probably been able to recover the economy in the long term in a healthier way, as opposed to propping up these businesses that should have never been propped up. And again, no one's going to come in and save them. They have to save themselves, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, if you're limiting that conversation to financial services, I think that's probably a good comparison. Obviously, there are plenty of industries that are allowed to have participants fail left and right with no intervention. Restaurants come to mind.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's the big takeaway? What do you want people to know? Because there are a lot of people who probably are new or maybe not super far down the rabbit hole. And a lot of people started with altcoins, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone starts somewhere, learns about it, and then hopefully moves into the full Bitcoin maxi position. But people are in different places, trusting companies based on, maybe something they saw with what's his name on crypto.com, Matt Damon. Yeah. Or Tom Brady. Yeah. And now here we are, and the price of Bitcoin's now in the 17,000 range. So what's the big takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, the best advice that you hear from the best investors throughout the ages is buy what you know. And so don't get caught up in shiny objects just because some celebrity or someone with media attention made you think that was a shiny object that you should just go grab some. Spend the time to actually understand what it is that you own. We often say in the Bitcoin space, the more you know, the more you buy, or things like, you earn the right to own more Bitcoin because you really can't hold on to it. You'll sell it. You'll get scared with the volatility or the FUD or whatever if you don't really understand what you own. So spend more time watching Natalie's show. Read Jan Pritzker's book, Inventing Bitcoin, which you can grab for free at swan.com/free book, and put in the time to really learn about Bitcoin, understand why Bitcoin, not crypto. The entire crypto blockchain DeFi industry is all just a marketing scam. Web3 is not real. The inventor of the frickin' World Wide Web put out an article this week explaining that Web3 is fake and that it's just a marketing scam from Andreessen Horowitz and SBF. So, that stuff is not real. Bitcoin is, but don't take my word for it. Learn about it and get to the point where you deserve to own some.
Yeah, you brought up some great points that I think also Jeff Booth articulates very well in his recent article about finding signal within this really noisy world and the blockchain trilemma. So I hope people take the time to really, really learn about it. And Jeff Booth is going to be at Pacific Bitcoin. So let's shift gears for a second here. Pacific Bitcoin, can people still buy tickets? And tell us about this massive conference, the biggest on the West Coast for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. So let's see. It's Thursday and Friday, November 10th and 11th, Pacific Bitcoin Conference. It's at the Barker Hangar at the Santa Monica Airport, which is an amazingly cool venue. This is where they used to do the MTV Movie Awards and all kinds of like Nickelodeon shows and stuff like that. So it's amazing. We've done a great job with programming. There's 3 stages, 7 hours a day for 2 days. So that's 42 hours of Bitcoin festival fun, lots of side events. The VIP ticket is like very worth it. The VIP party Thursday is going to be incredible. There's a VIP wrap brunch at a beachside mansion on Saturday. So that's something that's going to be really cool. But yeah, it's like you're there. Our 4 MCs are you, Stefan Livera, Citizen Bitcoin Brady, and Peter McCormick. So like that's a hell of a lineup. Got Michael Saylor, got Jeff Booth, So many incredible Bitcoiners. Lynn Alden, really excited to see her. Obviously, she's such a beast of a boss. And lots of swans. The Leaden team, lots of great companies came out to support and sponsor this in its first year. But I'm just absolutely thrilled.
Michael Saylor called this the event of the year. Why did you want to create this conference? There are so many. I just came back from 4 in Europe, which is super inspiring for a bear market. Why did you want to put a conference on and in this location?
Yeah, I mean, there was such a demand for a conference in Los Angeles, but in particular in the West Coast after the Bitcoin Magazine crew stopped doing theirs. And, a lot of people might forget that initially the plan in 2020, the year that they missed, was to have it in Los Angeles. And in fact, Swan was supposed to launch from the stage on March 27th during the conference in LA. And then they had to put it off for a year, and then they had to move it to Miami. So there's just been this idea for a long time of doing, an LA Bitcoin week. And then we realized, well, it needs to have a conference sort of at the end of the week. So there's actually been things going on all week long here. And there's, an ALS run for Hal Finney's org that's going on Wednesday. There's a beefsteak dinner. There's the Toxic Happy Hour guys, Anders and Pubby, have their big pleb fest on Wednesday night. Michael Saylor's planned like 3 private dinners that a bunch of people are going to. There's a special day for generalist VCs where literally the entire point of the whole afternoon is just to point out that they're underexposed to the Bitcoin industry. That there's something like 300 or 400x the amount of VC funding that's gone into crypto blockchain scams versus what's gone into Bitcoin companies. And even if you mistakenly believe that Bitcoin isn't the only thing that matters in this space, you're still way underallocated.
Yeah. Lawrence Lepard's also going to have a CrossFit. Well, head to pacificbitcoin.com if you still want tickets and join us. We have so many fun activities. I seriously cannot wait. I saw the list. You guys have been working so hard on it, Cory. Hats off. Super, super grateful to be a part of it. So pacificbitcoin.com, HODL for 20% off. And before we leave you, Cory, what are you going to be looking for with this whole FTX Binance, situation? What are you going to be watching for in the news as this develops, since it's breaking as we speak?
Yeah, well, it's a horrible time to buy a crypto exchange, because what was lost in the news yesterday because of all this FTX kerfuffle was the SEC's ruling against Library, LBRY. Basically made it as clear as day that the SEC believes that literally everything, including Ethereum, that's not Bitcoin, is a security. So now all the crypto people are scrambling and trying to figure out how to deal with that, and what they can get away with and what they can't. And it looks like, in particular, the summary judgment included a rejection of the request for fair notice, basically saying like, oh, well, you should have told us. And they're saying, no, the laws were on the books and they're really obvious, and like this was a security from day one. And like, nope, no quarter given. If it's a security, and it always was a security, we're applying the rules on the books. And I think this is really bad for Ripple and Ethereum and literally all of them. Not priced in. There's some alpha.
That's right. Well, sometimes we have to learn painful lessons. All of us have, but I think this goes to show the importance of Bitcoin, of self-custody, of companies that are Bitcoin forward, that don't take on this extra counterparty risk or rehypothecation. So thank you so much for joining me. And we're going to have Cory back for a full Coin Stories to hear his whole backstory. So we're going to set that up. And thanks so much, Cory.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for checking out this show. Again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any new content. And I love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment or send me an email at natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. Let me know what you think, if you have guest suggestions, and I'll see you next time.